What's up guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk about some underrated beauty brands and the products that I've been loving from them. I've done a couple of these videos in the past. Some of them have been indie brands, some have been specific to drugstore or palettes that I feel like are really underrated. So I'll link to all of those in the description box. I think I have a playlist, so either click the eye or it's in the description box below. But it's been a while since I've done one of these and there have been quite a few relatively new indie brands that have been kicking around my collection. Not that the brands themselves are new, but I have just personally gotten more familiar with them since I last created one of these underrated product videos. So I thought it's about time. There are some awesome products to talk about here today. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, let's first start with a brand that I feel like I probably mentioned the most here on the channel. So it's one that if you're a frequent watcher, you might already know about it, but it's still very much worth a mention. And that is the brand Sydney Grace. I most recently talked about the Autumn's Rain palette, did a tutorial of maybe one, actually I think two looks, as well as a review of this guy. And I not only have this palette, but a ton of other single shadows from the brand too. They're phenomenal. Like, I've yet to try a pressed powder from this brand that isn't absolutely amazing. And what's really great about Sydney Grace is if you go on their website, they often have bundles. Like, they'll put together their own original bundles. Like, I bought the winter bundle at one point, this really amazing collection of purples and blues and greigey mauves that was just perfect for the winter. But they'll also bundle shadows that are very similar to new or popular palettes. Like, at one time they had a Natasha Denona Tropics palette kind of collection of shadows. I think right now they have a collection that's super similar to Tarte's new Icy Betch palette, if you're interested in that. So it's just a really fun brand that has amazing shadows, but because the collection of their shadows is so broad, oftentimes they have shades that duplicate what's coming out in new, popular, and even high-end palettes. So highly recommend you check the shadows out. But what I feel like is truly underrated from this brand are the cream shadows. And I have a whole video dedicated to these cream shadows, but they are worth mentioning again, I think, because not only are they affordable for what they are, like, look at how much product you get. Once again, there are some incredibly unique shades, and I feel like I really have to talk about what I'm wearing on my eyes today because it's been so long since I've picked these up. I am wearing the shade Master Plan, just one shade on my eyes today, and yet it's like a duo slash trichrome. So depending on how I turn my eyes, it is this combination of lavender slash icy green slash icy light gray almost. I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. And then some of the other shades that I have are classic high shine, high metallic neutral shades like Cliff Jumping or I Don't Know. And then I have another duochrome. I think this is the one I wore in my original review, which is a soft teal with a lime, like a soft lime green slash gold shift to it. Just such beautiful shadows across the, like, I have yet to meet a shadow from Sydney Grace that I don't love. All right, next up is a brand that I personally found on Instagram, and I do think that it maybe has attracted more love on Instagram, but so far is kind of underrated still here on YouTube. It is Suva Beauty, and I'm specifically talking about their Hydra Effects liners. You might recognize, well, you might not, I don't know. I initially looked into them because I was looking for something for Halloween tutorials, and so I picked up this UV liner in the shade Acid Trip, this hot orange, and I used it for my UV pumpkin tutorial. And the premise behind these is that they're basically a cake product, so you add a little bit of a mixing medium, whichever medium you prefer, turns it into a liquid so you can use it as a liner, as a full-on body paint, as an eyeshadow, like you name it. This product is incredibly versatile and it has great lasting power. I mean, of course that will vary, I'm sure, depending on the mixing medium you use with them, but they have the potential to be ultra long lasting no matter how you want to wear them. So not only do I have this hot UV orange shade, but I also have Luster Lilac and Rose Gold, which makes an amazing eyeshadow as well as a facial highlight. If you dilute it enough with a mixing medium, absolutely beautiful as a facial highlight. And I've been particularly inspired lately to pick this orange back up, less for making myself into a pumpkin, but more so because on Instagram I saw Katie Jane Hughes do this beautiful eye look where it was a neutral eye, a soft and smoky wing, and then on the very inner corner, she had this pop of hot UV orange. And I was like, what a fantastic way to incorporate a subtle but still very noticeable pop of color into your eye look going into spring and summer. So that's definitely a look that's going to be in my future. But just overall, I feel like this is a very underrated product, and maybe because it's not in a format that a lot of people are used to using in their everyday makeup routine, but it really is, I mean, it's as simple as putting in a mixing medium in here, mixing it around with a brush, and popping it on your eye, as a liner, your face, wherever you want to use it. It's so easy. I just think it's a format that not a lot of us think to use on a daily basis. All right, the next brand I want to talk about is an Etsy seller named The Base Element, and I personally found their products when I stumbled across their My Favorite Murder themed lipstick collection. My Favorite Murder, by the way, in case you're not familiar, is a true crime podcast that I absolutely love, and when I stumbled across this lipstick collection, I had to try it. I have a review of them, really like the products, but since that review, they have come out with a ton of other products in their line, and they were kind enough to send me all of them, so I have a good idea of what's going on in the collection, and I just want to talk about my favorites. So first of all, there are pigments, and a ton of pigments. They come in these jars. They're like your classic loose pigment, but they are naturally themed around this podcast, My Favorite Murder. So some of my favorite shades are Elvis and Mimi, which is this soft, like light greigey taupe base, and then a beautiful pink iridescent shift to it. It's such an interesting shade, and I feel like that's the case with this brand and also just across the board with indie brands, because they're all handmade, hand mixed. You get this collection of much more interesting and unexpected color combinations. So really love that one. I also love Mothman, which at face value I think looks like a classic golden champagne, but then has this gorgeous copper shift to it. And then there is also First Responders, which has this shimmery like blackened gold base with an intense glittery shift that reflects like gold, but also green, like emerald green, lime green, really lots of facets of green in here. So beautiful. And like I said, there are so many other pigments available in this collection. Like, good luck choosing just one. The other products I really like from this collection, honestly maybe my favorite, but they are highlighters, and they're specifically called Ghost Lights, named after the theaters that My Favorite Murder has toured and done live shows in. These are called spooky highlighters, and they come in these twist up, kind of reminds me of like a twist up lip balm type packaging, but they're cream highlighters, so it's pretty perfect that all you have to do is twist it up, you run it straight down, like the size is perfect for running it straight down the top of your cheekbone, and then you either take, a brush, your finger, just pat it in over top, and it gives you this really gorgeous, dewy looking and ethereal glow. And again, there are tons of shades in this collection, so there are lots of unexpected color combinations that you might not think of from highlights. And you know me, I love a good colorful highlight, so you'll find your iridescent blues and greens, peaches with pink shifts, like there's every kind of highlight color you could want from this collection. The next brand I want to talk about is Suva Beauty, and this is probably the brand that I've talked about most recently here on the channel when I did a review of their eyeshadows and highlighters. They, again, like a lot of these other brands, because these are handmade and hand mixed, you will find some of the most gorgeous and unexpected color combinations for both eyeshadows and highlights. I mean, you can see here, there's like this purple, like lavender base with a teal blue shift, and such gorgeous color combinations. And obviously the same can be said for the shadows, but what I actually really love about the shadows are the mattes from this brand. You can see I picked up quite a few shades of green because something that surprised me when I was looking online at them was the variants of green and how kind of uncommon they are. I feel like we see a lot of emeralds and olives, but these mix them with a lot of different undertones, like this yellow green. This is more of a gray brown green. This is close to an olive green, but it still has this interesting gray undertone. And all of them, especially as far as mattes go, very easy to blend, no skipping, not dry at all on the lid, like just so beautiful. And actually, while I have this palette with these shadows in it out, it's worth mentioning this is from Adept Cosmetics, and I've talked about them quite a bit here on the channel before. In fact, I think they were in my first underrated products video, but it's worth mentioning because I still don't feel like they've picked up as much steam as they deserve for the gorgeous freeform palettes that they create. They sent me this one, so I actually ordered this palette from them because, in case you missed it, I did a video about how how I store magnetic eyelash hacks, and I've started to get where I store my lashes in these magnetic freeform palettes, but I needed to expand my capacity to hold them, so I had to buy another one of these palettes, and this is the one I got. It's like this white marble exterior. You open it up on one side, you have your palette. On the other side, you have another magnetic sheet, but also with a mirror right there, which is great, and it doubles your eyeshadow or magnetic lash capacity. But when I placed this order, they also sent me, because they've sent me things before in the past, they sent me this palette as well, and like, how gorgeous is this purple marble with the rose gold copper interior? Like, they just make such gorgeous, gorgeous palettes, and they can hold so many shadows. So highly recommend them as a brand. And then the last brand that I want to talk about is Luxe Beauty, and I actually just recently used this palette in particular in a tutorial that I will link to if you want to see it in use, but I'm also wearing it today and I'll tell you what shades I'm using. So this is the Fantasy palette, and you can see, I mean, I think it's meant to be a highlighter, or they talk about it as a highlighter palette, but realistically, you can wear these powders any which way you want. Eyeshadow, on your face, wherever you want to wear them. And you have these interesting color combinations, like this is What Mermaids Are Made Of over up here in the corner, which is a combination of a white pearl, lavender, and blue, and subtle green iridescent shades in there. Then there's Shooting Star, which has these like foiled, larger, shimmery chunks in there with both gold and kind of a cooler, almost not silver, but just like a cooler metallic shift. Then there's What Unicorns Are Made Of, which is like What Mermaids Are Made Of, but with a more colorful, like amped up a notch in the color department, because rather than having like a white pearl base, it has, I don't think there's any white pearl in here. It's like yellows and more vibrant blues and pinks and teals, things like that. And then down here there is Spark, which is a pink iridescent shade, and that's actually what I'm wearing as a highlight today, with a teensy little bit of Shooting Star sprinkled over top to give a little bit more of a chunkier looking highlight. Then there's Illusion, which is a very pigmented purple highlight with an iridescent sheen to it. And then there is Trip, which is a purpley blue iridescent highlight, and I actually used both of these two highlighters in that recent spring tutorial that I uploaded. So I love this palette, think it's very versatile, and as a bonus, you can pop these powders out and put them in a freeform palette if that is what best suits you. Then they also have, well, they have a few other products, and I'm not exactly a fan of all of them, but I do think they're worth talking about in case you're looking to try some things, some other things from this brand. So here I have some other shadows slash pressed metal things from them. Right down here, this is another Adept Cosmetics, by the way. It's a free form with magnetic sheets on either side and then a plastic protector in between the two, which is really necessary for some of these that I'm about to talk about. So there are pressed, like shimmery iridescent shadows as well as pressed mattes. Those are gorgeous. Highly recommend those. But these like ultra metallics that you see down here are very crumbly and very loosely pressed. Like, they are making a total mess for me in this palette because they're so lightly pressed and a very, very crumbly formula. It's almost like if you've ever seen gold leaf, like at a craft store, how it comes in a bag. It's almost like they milled it a little bit more finely and then tried to press it in a pan. And as a result, the slightest touch kind of makes it go everywhere. And because of that, I kind of struggle with how to work with it. They recommend using it over a glitter glue, which I have, but even still, it just doesn't apply quite like how I want. I still feel like I'm struggling with how to apply it to get the look that I feel like I know these can create. But in general, they're just kind of hard to work with. So I can't say I really recommend those right now, but I do absolutely love the single eyeshadows from them, as well as the facial powders that they have here too. Absolutely gorgeous. Should definitely recommend you check them out. All right, so those are my underrated brand and product picks for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it maybe helped you find something new and interesting for you to add to your makeup collection. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and if there are any brands that I haven't talked about you feel like are really underrated, I would love to hear about those too. Like, I'm always looking for new brands and products to try, so let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.